Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Mamaliez. Behind closed door with Mamaliez is about sharing of inspiring conversation and having a very authentic conversation with unconditional love and respect. So tonight we have a very important topic that we would like to share. I have a discussion about. The last week I'm just going to share with you who is our guest for tonight, and our topic is how whether there is any equal right of Malaysian mothers to confer automatic citizenship for their children born overseas. That's the question today, and that's the topic and the discussion that we need to talk about. And I have a lot of questions for our special guest tonight. So we have here, first of all, the let me share you. There's a very important case that happened last week. There was a high court case where there's a group of Malaysian mothers who actually won a high court case to they are married to foreign spouses, and they gave birth to their children overseas, and they won a case to able to get to confer automatic citizenship for their children. So we have Abraham Al, who is actually the legal counsel for Family Frontiers, and for that's handling this High Court case. He is a partner of Commercial GS Nija and is an advocate with high value dispute resolution lawyer, a graduate in University of Malay and legal counsel to Family Frontiers. And we have also the one of the plaintiff. We have Adlyn Adam. She is a cybersecurity lead, access management system, and plaintiff for Malaysian Women Equal Rights case for automatic citizenship for children. And she's also mother of one. And then finally, we also have Suri Kempe. She is the president of Family Frontiers, human rights activist, gender consultant for gender equality and justice, and also a mother of one. So, everyone, let's welcome Mr. Abraham, Adlyn, and also Suri. Hi! Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Before we start, maybe all of you could just have a short introduction about who you are, a brief uh, introduction of who you are. Maybe you can start with Abraham.
Hi, my name is Abraham, a lawyer and also counsel for Family Frontiers in this case.
Thank you, Abraham. We have Adlyn, Adam.
Hi, my name is Adlyn, and I'm one of the plaintiffs in the case. I'm affected mother of my son who was born in Beijing, China, so outside Malaysia.
Thank you. And we have Suri, the president of Family Frontiers.
Hi, Liz. Thanks for having me on the show. My name is Suri. I'm the president for Family Frontiers. The issue of equal citizenship has been actually a long-standing issue that has plagued my family for like two generations. My mother married a foreigner, and I was born abroad. So me and my sister were both born abroad, and and both of us happened to marry foreigners and had children abroad as well. So it's a long-standing problem in my family.
I see. So maybe we can start before you share your story. I just want to ask all the audience, just let us know where you're tuning in from, whether you're in Malaysia or outside Malaysia. If you have any kind of questions at all, you can just, if you have any question, any of the from our guests, please do so and have a comment on the comment, and I will try to answer you. Okay. So, sorry, maybe you could share about your own journey, about from your family side. How did it started from your family? What kind of challenges that you guys go through?
Oh my! Like I said, lah, it's a long-standing problem. So I was
Mm,
born in Germany. My sister was born in Germany. We came back when we were about six. When I was about 6 years old, and of course, from that time on, my mother had applied lah. But until I was 18, we were on actually long-term social visit pass, and then PR, and then only finally when I was 18, I got citizenship, but by registration lah, under 15 too. So my sister was the same way. Um, and of course my daughter as well. My daughter was born in the US. When we came back, she was about 4 months old. I had like a lot of other mothers, I had called the embassy. While I was pregnant, I couldn't, because I was in the midst of my masters, I couldn't just leave. Okay. So I couldn't come back. And of course, financial circumstances were such that it wasn't just easy to hop on a plane, buy a ticket, hop on a plane and go back. So I had called the embassy like any responsible person, right? Call the consulate, say, okay, what are the criteria? What is it? I'm going to have a baby. What's going to happen? And I want my child to be Malaysian. Okay. And they said, oh, jangan risau puan, don't worry. You just within 6 months ke 1 year, janji you register the child. Right? Let us know, or you nak balik Malaysia ni tak apa. You just register bila balik Malaysia nanti. So I said, okay, no problem. I go home. I did. When she was 4 months old, I went home, registered her, and they were like, oh, actually, you have to apply under Article 15.2. And then, ensued the long wait for the first rejection. She was rejected first for no reason. I wasn't party to any of the reasons for the rejection. Applied again, and at the same time, I had reached out to several people that I knew. I had gotten a support letter from a minister, etc., etc. But really, I think what catalyzed that entire successful application was because I made a lot of noise on Twitter and happened to tag the then Minister of Home Affairs. And I said, why? Apa pasal kena reject macam gini? And he said, oh, you shouldn't, because at that point, it was 2011. And in 2010, then Home Minister, Datuk Sri Syamuddin, had actually issued a statement saying Malaysia recognizes this as a problem. We recognize there is a problem for women. We will not change the law, but we will issue an administrative amendment. Maknanya all women who go and register their children under 15.2, we will just expedite and percepatkan and permudahkan the process. Okay? That was
what year
2010.
is it?
That was in 2010.
Okay.
So I cited that article. I said, you said this. What is the issue? Like, why am I getting rejected again? And like, why am I getting these rejections? And he said, oh, that shouldn't be the case. He ended up tagging his head of immigration at that point, and then they fast-tracked the process, right? So I was like, oh, well, okay. But what about the other mothers, right? And clearly, this is a long-standing problem that has continued to resurface again and again. And we know that the administrative amendment, no matter that they announced it, actually doesn't work. Because if we look at the statistics from the years 2013 to 2018, the chances of success under application for citizenship by registration is only about 3.45%, right? That means 96.5% of the applications are either in process or not heard of again, right? So or rejected. So that's the issue. The chances of success are very low, and it's very arbitrary, and you're not told why you don't succeed, right?
Yeah, exactly. So in your case, even when your mom was trying to apply for you, she didn't get it. Even when you come back, you didn't get it until you reach 18. Is that right?
Correct.
So there
Correct.
was no automatic citizenship for you as well. And
No.
she has to go through a lot of processes just to have you get the citizenship.
Correct.
Okay. So thank you so much for sharing. I can so relate to that, Suri, because I went through the same thing. Where were you when you gave birth to your son or your daughter again?
My daughter. Yeah. So I was in the States at that point. I was finishing my master's. And I defended my thesis when I was 8 months, right? So after and that last month of pregnancy, the doctors say better not to travel home again, because in case of any medical emergencies, you better not travel. So that was what happened, and I couldn't come back as well. So I ended up giving birth there. And so when she was born, she didn't get citizenship either. So yeah.
I really feel you because I registered mine at New York City because I thought because they say, oh yeah, you can apply just like you, yeah, you can apply your citizenship, blah, blah. So I thought I will straight away get my my daughter's citizenship and get the passport straight away ke apa. Sekali, oh no, actually it will go to approval process. And then when we came back to Malaysia, my daughter came under dependent visa with my husband as an expat here. But yet, the first round rejected after 6 years. So I just applied again last year. Yeah, and now still ongoing. So I don't know what's going on. So maybe now, Adlyn, maybe could you share your own experience as well?
Sure. So Liz, here's my story. So
Mm.
I was based in Beijing, China. And like Suri and like yourself, we started the journey before our child was born, right? When I was pregnant, I inquired in the embassy in Beijing. And knowing that sometimes we get different answers from different embassies, I also contacted the Hong Kong consulate
Right,
to see if I get the same answer. And I like to call too, so just to see, because sometimes different people from the same office give you different information, right? So I got a response, all the responses that did not give any indication that there would be any problem. It almost seemed like, it's just like applying for your passport, right? You just submit all your documents and then you will get it. And that's what I did. I was working at that time, and so that was a consideration of why I did not come back. And also, I wanted my husband to be around to see the baby for the first time, right? To spend,
right,
the first precious few moments with our baby together. And so
right,
that's why I stayed on in Beijing. And had my child. And right after confinement, I went straight to the embassy to
right.
not register, right? But little did I know that it was going to be an application. And that journey now has brought me into my ninth year. So if you take into consideration of when I started applying, this is a decade-long journey already. And if you think about all the things that you fight for in life, that you work really hard on, this is this is this has to be on the top of the list, right? So the reason why it's so important for me is because citizenship offers protection, the
Mm,
basic protection that you get, right?
mm,
And because my son is going to grow up in Malaysia, I'm based in KL now.
yeah,
This is going to be his home.
yeah,
He This is where we want to set up, right? So he needs to be accorded the rights like any other Malaysian kid. And what was even more compelling for my case is a lot
mm,
of people say, "Ala, tak apalah, just follow the father's citizenship. Why you want to have so many citizenships? Follow the father lah, big
yeah, yeah,
deal, right?
right,
You're so, but actually for my case, because my son was born in a third country, so he was not born in Malaysia, he was not born in Hong Kong, of which my husband is because my husband is a Hong Kong citizen. He
right,
was born in China. So
right.
my son did not qualify for Malaysian, Hong Kong, or Chinese passport. He
Really?
qualified for none. So my son was stateless. And it was really difficult because Malaysia did not want to let up. They did not want to issue an emergency pass to go back to Malaysia.
Right,
Hong Kong, clearly in their rules, my son did not qualify for a passport. And China practices just solely, they don't give, non-Chinese citizens, the very valued citizenship there. So it was really tough for us. And we tried to make a humanitarian appeal to the
mm,
Malaysian consulate. We did not get a response.
mm,
We also made the same appeal to Hong Kong, and they
right,
finally granted us the right of a boat for Hong Kong. So it's so ironic because we went to Hong Kong when my boy was almost 1 year old,
mm,
and to get his Hong Kong passport. And right after we got his Hong Kong passport, we flew back to Malaysia. So
wow,
it was just really a really difficult time. And a lot of people just assume that the kid gets a different passport, but they don't. Not all do. So this has to be a very important consideration, right? You can't just say follow ayah, follow bapa. No, it doesn't apply for everyone.
Yes, exactly. So I just want to say hello to the audience. We have here, sorry, my mother, Vilia. Hi, Mama. Thank you for joining us. And then we have also Uma Mokhtar. And just like you said, even for children of Malaysian fathers, fathers also have issues. But for sure, it's almost impossible for Malaysian mothers. Yeah. So as I just want to understand this, like you mentioned that most like you too, I didn't want to have my husband not experiencing when we give birth and all that. So I gave birth in New York City so that he can experience with the the birthing and all that with with together with the father, right? But when it came and then after that I moved to Doha, Qatar, and I knew, but I had a bad experience with my daughter, so I had to decide to give birth to of my son in Malaysia. So and like you said, you can't just leave 1 month before, and I had to go leave about few months before and fly back to Malaysia, being apart from the father. I'm alone at that time with my 1-year-old daughter, pregnant, flying off, coming back to Malaysia, and then after I gave birth, my husband came for a while, just stay for 1 week, 2 weeks, and he has to go back, and I have to stay on and be apart from him, you know. So I can't imagine uh, for those especially who are stateless like you is even we don't want to even consider that. So how come this information is not unified uh, to all these consulate? Every consulate, like you say, have different information. Maybe Abraham could you maybe share with us why you think they don't have a unity of information on all the consulates?
Well, as a lawyer, I don't think I can answer that question. It is basically a question of how the bureaucratic process is actually made out, right? But to be very pointed to that, you see, Article 15 of the Constitution allows anyone, right, to apply for this citizenship. Of course, particularly Article 15, Clause 2, that Suri mentioned earlier, allows the government to may cause, basically. That means it incorporates a discretionary element to grant citizenship, right, if one of the parent is a Malaysian, right? So that is a process in which would be generally resorted to by Malaysian mothers when they want to register their children. But I would say because this is a discretionary process, and furthermore, under the federal constitution, any decision of the government with regard to citizenship is also final. It's deemed as a policy question. So when it's a policy question, and it trickles top down from the constitution, then to the executive government, and then to their agents all over the world. Some of them might, because it's not by operation of law, and I think this is exactly the problem. Because if it is by operation of law, they will have to implement it. They would have no choice but to implement it. It's mandatory, right? But because it is a discretionary process, therefore it is open to government agents, to government to communicate whatever information that they could. Like for example, when the government says that everyone can apply for BREAM and all that, for AIDS and all that. You see, it requires them to communicate it, right? Because it is basically up to that particular citizen to apply for such an aid and to go through that process. And it's not for the government to actually give it automatically. And I think that answers your question as to why information, there seems to be a disparity in which information is being disseminated.
Yeah, but do you think they themselves, even the agents, doesn't understand what they're supposed to do with those information? They themselves are not clear what they're supposed to do with it.
Possible.
Whether, Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the way I see it, like even I was posting in my LinkedIn post about, and then someone was saying this person's from immigration and say, oh, we're not supposed to have dual citizenship. And I'm thinking, hey, and then I make a research because at that time I wasn't so sure. I knew we have a dual citizenship if they're born in other countries. Those who fathers who have foreign moms, they can have automatic citizenship with two. Like maybe I just share what you guys have put up, right? In terms of this issue of, this is from what he said, issue of dual citizenship is why Malaysian mothers, this is when they appeal, AG has appealed against the High Court case. So issue of dual citizenship is why Malaysian mothers cannot automatically pass on citizenship on their overseas born children. So our Home Minister here give a reason why the AG wants to do the appeal against the High Court. So from here, the argument is only used regards to Malaysian mothers, and when you say children from overseas to a Malaysian man married to a foreign spouse, and children born Malaysia to a Malaysian parent married to a foreign spouse can get a dual citizenship. Okay. So do you think this, even the agents, even the some of the government agencies, they don't know this information because automatically they say no, it's not, cannot. But actually the law says yes. Any of you want to?
Yeah, I can take a stab at it. I think just a couple of things. One is we don't know whether or not that is the reason that AG appealed. Now, we know that he has filed an appeal, but he's not. If I understand correctly, and Abraham, you can correct me if I'm wrong. He's not allowed to say more than that, lah. That he's filed that. All we know is that he's filed the appeal. What we do know separately is that whenever asked about the issue of citizenship, the government, by way of the Home Minister, because JPN falls under his jurisdiction of Home Affairs, kan? The Home Minister will respond each time this issue is raised. The Home Minister will respond. The issue is one of dual citizenship and national security, right? But what we're saying is that the argument is flawed. You see, dual citizenship can be obtained multiple ways. So if you go back to that, to the poster that you put up just now, dual citizenship, right? Dual citizenship exactly can be obtained by a child born within Malaysia to a Malaysian parent married to a foreign spouse. Maknanya, like some countries give their women equal citizenship, right? The right to confer citizenship like men. So even if the child is born here, but the person but has a foreign or non-Malaysian mother, the child can also adopt her citizenship. Can take after her citizenship as long as the country that she's from gives women the right to confer citizenship to their children. It's also the case that both parents could be Malaysian, but the child is born in a country like the US, which grants citizenship on the basis of jus soli. Maknanya, all you have to do is have the child be born in the US, and the child can have dual citizenship. So there are multiple ways. Okay, you can remove the
Yeah.
thing, but
Yeah.
there are multiple ways to access dual citizenship. And while that may be a problem for Malaysia, the answer to addressing this problem is not through discriminating women on this base on equal citizenship.
Mm.
Yeah, so for me that is a problem. And the other issue, the other thing that I wanted to address is, yes, there are conflicting. I think the problem with government agencies, we did a study. Family Frontiers did a short survey in early 2020, and one of the findings that we came up with was that yes, whenever mothers approached either overseas missions, overseas Malaysian missions, or GPN, they got conflicting information, right? Sometimes they give them the wrong forms to fill out. Sometimes they give them the wrong information. Some even discourage women from applying for citizenship by registration under 15.2. They tell the mothers outright, you have no chance of obtaining citizenship. Cannot. So don't even apply. Right? We have mothers who have received that information. multiple, in fact. So that information is wrong. But I also think it is a reflection of the fact that they don't know the procedure well themselves. They haven't been properly briefed, and
Yeah.
therefore diorang tak boleh sampaikan maklumat tu dengan betul dan tepat. Okay, and perhaps the root cause of this, as Abraham has suggested earlier, is because this isn't an operation of law. This is a discretionary process, which diorang
Yeah.
kata mungkin tak lantak lah, kalau tak betul pun tak apalah, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not fair to macam blanket stroke, you know, just condemn, say they don't know what they're doing, right? But the point is, I'm not pointing fingers. The point is that at the end of the day, it's the mothers who get conflicting information. It is the mothers who get the wrong borang. It is the mothers who are told not to apply for citizenship with their children. And it is the mothers and the children who suffer, and the extended family as well. I think we often forget that when we look at this issue, the people who are also affected tend to be our parents, right? The mother's parents or the father's parents, you know, because families are split apart by this discriminatory legislation or
Yeah.
application of the law.
Like today, I made a research actually. I was looking into all the consulates punya information, and you're right. They are giving different set of information. Some are clear, some are not clear, and some even tell saying that the woman does not even have any chance to get automatic citizenship. They think, you know, the way they put the information, oh, you just apply, you know, but we didn't know it doesn't. So it's really confusing, yeah, for a lot of us, like Adlyn and you, all of us went through it, yeah. But what can maybe Abraham, I don't know if you can suggest what can the mothers do? Where can they get the right information? How do we get the right information out? If we can't get these consulates, what is the best way of getting the right interpretation of the law, or you know, understanding what's the right, the woman's right? Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think my role as a lawyer would be confined to explaining the what rather than the how.
Yeah.
Right? How will be up to the media, to NGOs like Family Frontiers, and of course the government is responsible. That is why we have communications and ministry. We're supposed to communicate government policies to the citizenry. Okay, so I would like to just comment on what you said, and that poster which you flashed out just now on the
Okay.
Home Minister's
Yeah.
position. And what
Yeah.
Suri also said is that this whole thing is blurred. This whole thing is actually blurred. The whole issue of dual citizenship actually does not arise, whether in this case or in the case of Malaysian mothers, right? Because if you are a Malaysian father and you have a child born overseas, right? That child will be conferred Malaysian citizenship automatically. You get it as of right, it's your right, right? But the child comes back to Malaysia, he or she could have been conferred citizenship of a different or another country as well. For example, he might be conferred US citizenship, and because US confers citizenship by jus soli, and he comes back, and basically by way of jus sanguinis, which is a different concept. Jus soli means you are born in that country and you get citizenship of the country in which you're born in. Jus sanguinis, which is the issue in this case now, right? In fact, our case, conferment by citizenship by way of bloodline, right? It's called jus sanguinis. That means citizenship is given to you by virtue of you inheriting it from either of your parent. So that's jus sanguinis. But Malaysian fathers do not actually have that kind of problems. And dual citizenship will not arise because we are talking about citizenship by operation of law. So when the child comes back to the country, and when the child attains 21 years old, the child then can, under a different provision of the Constitution, Article 23, he can voluntarily renunciate citizenship. Okay, so that's one. So even if it is a child of a father, a Malaysian father, right? Child of a Malaysian father, upon reaching the age of 21, the child can still elect or opt to renunciate citizenship.
Right.
If he doesn't renunciate citizenship, what happens? Right? Because people are talking about, oh, then it's unfair. How can you have two citizenships,
Yeah.
and basically just because you were born outside the country.
Right.
If he or she does not renunciate citizenship, then the government can, by virtue of Article 24 and 27 of the Constitution, commence a process called deprivation. So the government can deprive a person of citizenship, right? And there is a process to be complied. The government must then send a notice to that person in which citizenship would have to be deprived, and then that person can explain himself. Okay, actually I don't plan to actually reside in the US. I don't plan to reside and to further my future in the US. Therefore, I want to be a Malaysian citizen. Then the government say, okay, so fine. So are you willing to renunciate your citizenship in the US? So if he says yes, then it's fine. If he says no, then the government can deprive his
Right.
citizenship, and that decision cannot be challenged. There is a finality clause that you cannot challenge the government's decision. So at the end of the day, the government still has the final say, right? But what we are dealing with, the core issue that we are dealing with now, is do not discriminate at the threshold level. Do not discriminate Malaysian mothers at the threshold level, where they have to then grope around and look around and to go through a long and gruesome process of registration, where they are being put to the arbitrary decision of the government and to suffer the consequences therein. So do not discriminate. Give equal protection to both fathers and mothers. Then when the time comes, and if the government still has a say, the government will always have a say on issues of citizenship, then let the process go. But do not, at this first level, at the threshold level, deny or discriminate mothers of their rightful constitutional guarantees.
Great. So I just want to put this up about this, how the law affected Malaysian mothers with foreign spouse and give birth overseas. And I think how you guys won the High Court case is due to the Article 82, the non-discrimination of provision against gender, correct, Abraham? Yes. And then the Article 14 is when they say anyone born outside the country whose father is a Malaysian are citizens by default by operation of law. Okay. So maybe you can share us the story on what happened in the court. How did you argue and manage to argue on having on the article, this first Article 82 here?
Okay, before that, it's a team effort. So it's not just myself. There was Professor Dr. Gudel Singh Nijai and also Mr. Joshua and Andren who were on the team as well. So basically what we argued is that, okay, fine, Article 14(1)(b) read with the second schedule states that father, so it only states the word father, right?
Yeah.
But you must consider the fact that the Constitution is an evolving document. You have an Act of Parliament, right? An Act like the COVID Act, like the Contracts Act, like the National Land Code and so on, deals with different areas of law. And these acts have to be interpreted in its own form and its own context. So basically, when you interpret other laws, you interpret a will, you interpret a contract, you interpret it as to what was intended when that particular document is drafted, right? So
Yes.
I'm a person who drafts a contract. So basically, when the court interprets it, what would the person have thought about it, right? But when you interpret a constitution, it's different. It's a completely what they call sui generis. Sui generis means you interpret it on its own. It's basically an independent document that you do not consider other things. You basically just apply, and it has the ways of interpreting it which are exclusive only to itself. And this is accepted by our federal court in Indira Gandhi, in Zambri's case, and so on. So many federal court decisions have said that when you interpret a constitution, it is a living document. You must interpret it organically. It's like a living organism that moves, you see, rather than following it by the cold letter of the law.
Right.
So basically, what we argued was that, okay, fathers are being given that right. Children born to fathers overseas are being given that right. But mothers are not. But you must also consider Article 8.2 of the Federal Constitution. Article 8 basically says, in simpler words, everybody is equal before the law. Nobody should be discriminated. But specifically in 2001, the government moved an amendment to Clause 2, and which says that there shall be no discrimination. That means it's basically a prohibition. The government cannot discriminate anybody on the basis of gender. So you as a citizen cannot be discriminated just because you are male or just because you are a female, right?
Right.
So we are saying that is why when you interpret the word father in the present day context, not at the at the patriarchal era where men are more superior than women and women are considered chattel to men and so on. Not at that kind of era, because it's not locked there. And at this day and age, 2021, where we have a chief justice who is a female and women basically being appointed to high positions of power, you do not discriminate and interpret a particular provision of constitution in a way that traces back to the patriarchal age. So I'm only going to limit myself to what was argued and what was decided by the High Court. So the High Court basically agreed with the mothers and said that when you track the constitution, right when it was drafted, over the years in the 60s, when Malaysia was formed, the Malaysia Act came in, citizenship became an issue again. No, the parliament did not intend to discriminate against mothers.
What was their
There was
intention
no-
with it? Yeah, what was their intention when
Basically,
they
just
put father?
basically in my view, is personally in my view, it just slipped their mind, It just slipped their mind. But they did not expressly say that, okay, we are going to discriminate mothers. Over the years, whenever citizenship provisions are being amended, what was important to the government was three criteria, right? Loyalty, allegiance, and attachment. So as long as you're loyal to the country, you swear allegiance to the country, and there is some form of attachment to the country, then citizenship will be given to you. Of course, again, the issue of dual citizenship will arise. If you then take on the citizenship of another country, then would you still be considered loyal to the country? That is a different question. That falls within agenda number 2, agenda B, whereby how the government can then deprive you of your citizenship when you are shown to be, so-called disloyal to the country. So that is different. But what we are saying is that you cannot at a threshold level discriminate against mothers, and thankfully the judge agreed with us and said and extended the meaning of fathers to also include mothers.
Okay. I just want to ask one more thing, okay? You see on the right side how the citizenship can be conferred when first both parents are Malaysian. Second, this is I got from one of the consulates. Second, father is Malaysian, and third, single mother Malaysian. Okay. If parents are not married and child born out of wedlock, the child cannot be registered as a Malaysian citizenship. The child may follow the mother's foreigner citizenship. Now, I want to see at point number 3. I feel it's very odd. Like right now, what is the current interpretation based on before the High Court decision is that if you are married, a mother, Malaysian mother married to a foreigner, you don't get automatic citizenship. However, if you are a single mother, you do. Is this correct, Abraham?
Okay, in fact, there was a very recent case called the CITEPS case that actually discusses this issue.
Right.
Of course, I'm not going to elaborate on that case, but basically, if you are an illegitimate child under Malaysian law, under the Malaysian constitution, as interpreted by the federal court recently, just I think a couple of 1 to 2 months before this decision was being handed out, delivered, was that if you are an illegitimate child, then your citizenship would follow that of your mother,
Right.
right? So what happened in those cases, which went up all the way up to the federal court, is that the father is a Malaysian citizen, the mother is a Thai or an Indonesian or a Vietnamese who has ran away, and the mother couldn't be traced. So the child is stateless as far as the law is concerned, because he or she is in an illegitimate marriage, was born out of wedlock. Therefore, the father cannot pass citizenship to the child. That
Right.
is, again, I would say, a rather ridiculous kind of a scenario, which of course is not the subject matter of our case.
Yeah.
Of course, the federal court decided by a majority of 4-3. That means out of 7 judges, 4 decided in favor of their interpreting that the children should not be given citizenship, and 3 judges disagreed with that kind of interpretation. Again, I'm not gonna go into the merits of that decision, but yes, that is the state of affairs now, as far as the
Abraham,
law is concerned.
can I jump in on that? So I
Yeah,
think
sure.
with regard to number 3, the category of single mothers,
Yeah.
the irony of the current state of the law, right, is that if I am unmarried and I
Yeah.
go abroad and I get pregnant out of wedlock, Abraham, correct me if I'm wrong, okay? If I get pregnant out of wedlock and I am a Malaysian mother,
Yeah.
that my child will get citizenship for operation
Yeah.
of law, because citizenship follows the mother in cases of illegitimate children. So the irony is that Malaysian law currently encourages Malaysian women to go abroad and get pregnant out of wedlock so that their children can be Malaysian.
No, the funny thing is, the way I see it is as if, hey, like punishing the Malaysian woman for marrying foreign spouses. You marry foreign spouses, you get punished. You don't get the citizenship. But yet, if you divorce or have a legitimate child, or you're single mother, okay, you
Actually, I
get
don't
it.
like to use the word illegitimate. I feel like illegitimate is such a degrading and demeaning term to
Yeah,
use for children, okay? I mean, if they're born out of wedlock, okay, I feel like that's a little bit less
yeah,
judgmental, but like the
yeah,
term illegitimate just sounds so terrible sometimes, so
yeah.
I I understand it for ease of understanding, but I tend to prefer not using that term at all, because um it's so crude, right? Because it's not
Yeah,
like, it's like a judgment on the child, which is not fair to
exactly.
the child at all.
Yeah. So that's the way I see. How come with your single mother you can get automatic citizenship, but the minute I married cannot get? How weird is that? So that's get me confused already when I see that message. You see, and okay, I just wanna ask.
Well, the law actually doesn't say if you are a
Hmm,
single mother, you get citizenship. But basically, it just says that in the case of a child born out of wedlock, the
hmm,
citizenship will follow that of the mother. It's actually, um, with respect to the federal court, in fact, 3 of the dissenting judges, is Chief Justice Tengku Maimun, Justice Nalini, and Justice Mary Lim, that track the drafting history of the Constitution, right? And they say that this particular provision of the Constitution is actually to prevent a child from becoming stateless, right? Because what
hmm,
happens is usually, uh, um, uh, I mean, a Malaysian, when the Constitution was being drafted, foreigners came, colonized our country, marry local women, and then run off. You see, so if you say
hmm.
that, and then they don't get married and they run off, you see, and then they disappear, after Malaysia achieved independence. So that child, for all intents and purposes, is left with his mother. and the father cannot be traced. So what do? That is why the Reed Commission, when they drafted the constitution, they put in this clause to prevent children from becoming stateless, to actually save it, and not the other way around, right? But now it seems that this has opened I would say, the Pandora box, where now the positions are being swapped. Malaysian men marry foreign women, and sometimes there's some I would say there are some centers which basically introduced Vietnamese women and Thai women and Indonesian women to Malaysian men, for even for some fees, and they get married, and some they don't get married because for some reasons lah, and then the woman runs off, and that is why this particular case, this particular predicament actually is now quite prevalent in the Malaysian society. But what I want to say is that the law actually does not say single mothers, but basically it is to protect children who are born out of wedlock and who are being left by the father. So to give them citizenship and not to render them stateless. Yeah, that's my point. Okay.
Okay, I just want to ask Adlyn, from that point when you came back, what made you decide to also file the case into High Court? How did this happen that you come together with Family Frontier with Suri? Maybe share your journey, how you get going into filing the court.
Certainly. So my first application went in before my child was 1, and we got the rejection when he was about 3 years old, right? And then I reapplied. And after the first rejection, I realized that there's a problem here because I did not understand the basis of the rejection. There was no reason given, right? But there was a very, I would say, leading sentence at the end of that rejection letter, which says, "Jika puan masih berminat, puan boleh memohon lagi." So of course I'm interested. This is not like mine want to apply for citizenship just for the fun of it, right? So I reapplied.
Right.
What was very heartbreaking for me was when I was in that Jalan Duta, office. I submitted the exact same set of documents. Same set, because it's still that was the same requirements. Now I thought, what is the basis of my rejection?
Yeah.
And if I serve the same set of evidences, am I going to get the same results? But I went ahead, I submitted it, and this time I thought, okay, I'll put in a bit more effort. I will, write to my MP, get support, right? I will write letters to the immigration department myself directly, all to no avail, right? And I have to say, putting yourself out as a plaintiff in a public interest case is not something you have to take. It's something you take lightly, right? I mean, it's purely out of desperation that we had to go this route. There was no other avenue for mothers like me to go to. What else can we do? Who else can we talk to? I mean, sit in front of the PM's office? I don't know, right? I don't know how many times I had to go to Putrajaya, to the big KDN building, which is like, very imposing with red bricks, to go in, get a number, queue, ask them, oh, what is the status of my permohonan? I went physically many times. I called, I emailed, I sent registered letters, hoping that by sending registered letters, they would open my letter. Nothing, right? So, I mean, the ask is very simple. So I have a brother, an older brother, who also married a foreigner. So, as fate would have it, both of us married non-Malaysians, and my sister-in-law is American. Now, why is it that if my brother has a child, his child can get Malaysian citizenship just like that and get American citizenship?
Yeah.
Whereas I go through a different process. So I just want to fill in the same form as my brother, Borang W. That's all. That's the basic ask. Because as citizens of Malaysia, we have rights and duties as citizens, right? So what is my right and what are my duties? No, one of my basic duties is to pay taxes, correct?
Exactly. Yeah.
And I pay the same rate as men do.
Yeah.
Okay? But why am I given less rights than men? If you want to look at this, okay, let's make it equal, right? Give me a lower tax rate, then I understand why I have different rights. So it's really, Malaysia has always promoted equality, right? I've never been shown I've never experienced gender inequality growing up in Malaysia. We could go to the
Right.
same schools.
Yeah.
We could always even do any kind of sports that you want to, you know, going to universities, you fill in the same forms, right? So why suddenly are we met with this really strange provision on
Mm.
citizenship, which is just a matter of geography? If I had come back to Malaysia, my child would have been Malaysian. It was just that I was at the wrong, GPS coordinates. That's all. So it's
Yeah.
just very bizarre. And the ask is very simple. I just want to fill up the same form as my brother does. You know.
Mm. Mm. Okay, thank you so much, Adlyn. So, Suri, maybe you can share with us and the audience, how did you start Family Frontiers? Is it because it started with so many cases of ladies who are affected?
I can't take the credit of starting Family Frontiers, to be
Yeah.
honest. Bina Ramanan, whom you've met, has basically been working on foreign spouse issues. She's been the powerhouse behind supporting the rights of women with foreign spouses and issues of citizenship. And she was doing this for a very long time, for like 10 years. And then finally, I think it got to a point where, and she has a Facebook group called Foreign Spouses Support Group, right? And it was all informal, all non-registered, etc. But I think the work on citizenship got to be so much. It came to a point where I think we needed to register. She needed to register an organization, and
Mm.
in order to register an organization, you need to bring people in. And so, I mean, we've worked together before. So she brought us in, and it happened. Like, I got elected president of the organization. So I really can't take full credit. You'll have to speak to Bina about that, and like the amazing advocacy work that she's been doing around this.
Mhm.
But I'm definitely supportive, because this is an issue that's close to my heart, right? It is an issue that I care about. Clearly, I'm affected by it. My sister is affected by it. She's got two boys. She's married to a Dutch guy, Mark, and they've got two young boys. And like, I really want to see my nephews. I like they were living here and they decided to leave because um, because they felt the country didn't welcome them, right? She's a rheumatologist. She's a specialist. Malaysia is going through a brain drain. So this issue affects me, and that's why I decided to move on this, and to continue working on it, right? Yeah. So
So when was Family Frontiers was created?
I think, like, we were officially registered in, was it 2018, 2019?
Oh,
Yeah, so around that time, so pretty fairly recently. Um, and probably 2019, when all the paperwork went through. We had gotten together in 2018 to discuss it, but when all the paperwork went through and everything, it was 2019. But Family Frontiers does a lot of things, right? They do direct service provision, where they offer support. They have support groups both on WhatsApp and on Facebook and social media for different categories of people. um, foreign people with foreign spouses, people with children born abroad, etc., etc. But they do so they have peer support networks. They do public awareness raising, strategic litigation like this one. They do parliamentary engagement and lobby parliamentarians. Family Frontiers also does media engagement, stakeholder engagement, community engagement, all to raise awareness on this issue and really push for change, right?
right.
So this is one of those strategies, like, really. And to be honest, this wasn't like, the decision to file in court really
Mm.
happened after sustained advocacy. As I told you, Bina had been working on this issue for more than 10 years. Okay.
Right, right.
we've been trying to push for law change. We talked about amending the federal constitution, Article 82 in 2001. Back then, when they inserted gender into the federal constitution as a basis for non-discrimination, they also said, we will look at the provisions on citizenship and we will study them and we will work on amending them to be in line, right? But that never happened. It's 20 years since. And so we decided to push. We thought, the COVID situation is exacerbating the situation for everyone.
Yeah.
It is really like, and the chances of amending the federal constitution under these political conditions where we're hardly even allowed to go out is very difficult and very slim, especially with the government in turmoil and whatnot. And so we thought, we need to seek justice. These mothers need relief. We really need to file the case, and we need to file it now. So at the end of December, we filed the court case with Adlyn as one of the plaintiffs. Family Frontiers is one of the plaintiffs, along with 6 other mothers, including Adlyn. So that's what happened. And Abraham and Prof. Gurdial Singh and Joshua were the amazing legal team that's carried us through it thus far.
Yeah. So I'm sure when you decided to file, how do you choose your legal team, like Abraham? Like, I'm sure what was your process like? Yeah. Because there's, it has to be someone who are a team that will be passionate about helping in the same cause. I believe so.
Well, I believe our EXCO members were knew enough, know Dr. Prof. Gurdial, right? And so they were having conversations about this and exploring the possibility of filing a court case. So that's, as luck would have it, that's kind of how it played out. And Prof. Gurdial is well respected, well known, and takes up public interest litigation frequently, I think. And I think that was really an encouraging factor. And really, I mean, we're very thankful. We have a really hardworking team who's worked, throughout the holidays and throughout Chinese New Year break and throughout all the time. They're really pulling together the entire arguments for the case, the basis for the case, how to frame it, what the strategy should be. And so, I mean, I don't think we could have gotten a better team. This is really an amazing thing for us. They were just the best team to get for the case.
Yeah. So I going back about COVID, right? I think when pandemic has happened, it has affected more Malaysian mothers. Do you agree? I don't know, Abraham, more Malaysian mothers, they cannot come back because the border is closed. They have no choice. They have to give birth. They can't come back because the border is closed. Any of you would like to comment on that?
Yeah, I'm directly affected by that because if my son's father, so my husband is in Beijing now, so my son has not been able to see his father for 2 years now. Because the borders are closed. If I take my boy out to see his father, he can't come back into Malaysia.
Oh my God.
So where do we go, right? So it has literally separated families. And if you want to prolong this, until when? Until my boy is 18, then he can see his father. I mean, we don't know how long the borders are going to be closed, right? It could be years before they open. And, the reasons have to be very valid to allow, cross-border travel and whatnot. And this was not, seeing your immediate family would not be considered a priority. I mean, that is the really sad, reality of it.
Yeah. I think a lot of people didn't realize how serious it is to, the separation of the families. I mean, I can't imagine. Your son not able to see the father for 2 years. It must be very, very hard. And I really commend you for fighting for your son's right to be a Malaysian. It's really sad it's sad.
Liz, he's Malaysian. My son, he's Malaysian. It's just that he hasn't gotten his documents yet. Because if you talk about what Abraham mentioned, loyalty, attachment. You know, my son, he only knows one national anthem, and it's Negaraku.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
He only knows how to draw the Malaysian flag. You know, so at a very tender age, at formative age, he already recognizes himself, his his identity as a Malaysian.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
how, what else can you say, right? He's going to learn the Rukun Negara very soon. He sings Sudiman songs like Balik Kampung. He in terms of identity, he plays the Jongkak very well. So
Yeah.
if you look at him, you would never think that he's, doesn't hold a Malaysian, my kid.
Yeah.
And he deserves one, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, that's amazing.
I think if we go by Adlyn's son's standard, I should be deprived of my citizenship.
You need to learn the Sudiman
Yes.
song now, Balik Kampung.
Yeah. I can't play Chongkak, to be very honest.
I'm just gonna share some pictures of you guys. This is the picture masa you all menang. This one menang ah. Masa you all baru menang kah? Right? You just won this case.
Tu masa when we filed the case.
When you filed the case and you guys won the case, right?
No.
And
This is not the winning picture. During winning September 9th, we couldn't be in court. We had to do it. The hearing was online.
Online, eh?
Yeah.
How was it done online? How was the experience like?
Abraham, that's your
Yeah, Abraham, how you guys do?
Well, I think those pictures were taken when the government filed a striking out application earlier. So what they did was they filed an application to say that this case has no hope at all. Basically, when you try to strike out somebody's case, you are saying that this case is what they call frivolous and vexatious, and an abuse of the court's process, because basically you are wasting everybody's time. So they applied to have the case summarily struck out. So the court dismissed the application. They appealed against that decision. Again, that decision was being dismissed. The appeal was being dismissed. So it went back to the High Court again for decision to be rendered. But the question was, how was it done online? So basically, court proceedings are mostly because of the ongoing MCO. When the first MCO actually kicked in, all court proceedings were being postponed. But then the court saw that access to justice is being delayed and all that were happening. So they decided to basically turn the court process to be an online session and to basically to be conducted by Zoom. Yeah, so everything is something like now. How we are talking now, except that we also get to share documents on the screen and to basically submit via screen virtually without having to be physically present in court.
Oh, do you think it will be like that in the future continuously, or no need to go to court anymore?
Possible, very possible. Because the court is already equipped with that system. Previously, they were not prepared for this, so that it took time for the court to prepare themselves for all the video conferencing system and setup. But now they're already equipped, and they find it very convenient. And lawyers, I don't know about others, I can't speak for the others, but for me, I find it very convenient. For starters, I don't have to wake up extremely early and to travel 45 minutes to Putrajaya to have a hearing there. You see, I can just do it from my office or even at home. For me, it's fine. Yeah, but I can't speak for others.
So my mom was saying AG is appointed by AGO on the advice of PM. So AG's position is extremely powerful. And she said, Abraham said, her question, AG has the absolute power to make any legal decision without interference from political leaders or NGOs. For this cause, what can you do? Okay, who wants to answer first?
Well, the straightforward answer is that I can't do anything. The AG is the government's lawyer, and it's basically for them to make a decision after consulting their client. But like any court process, there could be a process of what we call a settlement, in which parties to a dispute settle a case at any stage amicably. But it's up to them, It's basically up to the government as to what position they want to take for the appeal. But as to the merits of the appeal, I don't think it is appropriate for me to comment. Yeah.
All right. Suri?
So what is there to do, right? Like Abraham said, building on Abraham's response, AG is government's lawyer. What is there to do? Talk to the client. We, at least at Family Frontiers, what we've been doing is we've been trying to lobby the ministers, right? We've met several ministers. Ministers have, especially after the High Court decision was announced or delivered. We had several ministers show support, right? We had Saifuddin, who's Minister of Foreign Affairs. We had Zuraida Kamaruddin. There were several others. I think ministers in Sarawak, several political parties issued, Wanita MCA, for example, issued support, so there was support there. And then the government went on to issue its appeal. So what we did was we leveraged on those statements of support. Law Minister also said congratulations, right? So what we did was we built and leveraged on those and reached out to them. In fact, we were able to meet directly with the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dato' Saifuddin, and we were also able to meet directly with YB Rina Harun, who is the Minister of Women. I see that your mom also mentioned, reach out to the Women's Minister. That's exactly what we did. We did reach out to her. In fact, Adlyn was there as well and shared her story with the Women's Minister. And she has agreed to to basically raise the issue at cabinet, and has basically. So I remember, like, if you follow their social media channels, I mean, all of them said that they've basically agreed to raise this issue. Anwar Musa, Tan Sri Anwar Musa was another minister who had openly stated his support and said, listen to the voices of the mothers, of Malaysian mothers in this instance. So I believe that the issue was raised in cabinet today. We don't know the outcome of that yet. No pronouncements have been made thus far. But I believe that if they are the client, as Abraham puts it, then they are able to instruct their lawyer to withdraw the appeal should they so desire. Abraham, that's correct, right? That would be accurate. That would be an accurate assumption.
Yes, that's correct.
Right.
So that's what we've been doing. We've also been building public support and put out a petition. The amazing thing is, I don't know if you have a link to the petition or you can flash it. I know that the last I checked, we had about 21,000 signatures, which was amazing. Yeah, you when it was about 6,400. Yeah, but now it's 21,000. Yep. And if you click on that link right now, as of 12:45 p.m. on 17th September, it was 21,750. I mean, this is great, actually. These numbers for a petition are really, really good. And they show us that there is public support. In fact, before this case gained traction in the media, people didn't know, people weren't aware that Malaysian women were going through these problems, that the government did not give equal citizenship rights to women. But now, like the fact that like a lot more people know, people are outraged. There is a lot of public support. It's a very popular decision. And so what we're hoping is that the government will see how that, like, the effect of supporting this. Like, I feel like it is extremely popular. There is a lot of political opportunity in this, in leveraging this amazing decision for the government, because it would speak well to the government's first 100 days, right? It would speak well as they vie for a seat on the Human Rights Council, because it speaks to their pledge. Because when you vie for a seat in the Human Rights Council, governments are required to or make pledges. And one of their pledges was to support women's rights and gender equality. So there's many things that there's many reasons why this decision should be embraced instead of rejected or appealed in the way that it is right now, right? um, in fact, like, and the biggest reason, of course, is that it will bring so much relief to the women and children who are going and facing these problems. People like Adlyn, these are real people, real faces, real problems, right? And
Mm.
you, for example, right? Like,
Yeah.
my sister, we all know someone who's affected by issues like this, and we all want relief. And for me, that is the biggest incentive. you know Give equal rights to women in Malaysia. I mean, that is the biggest incentive. And it
Yeah.
speaks, for me at least, it speaks to the spirit of the Constitution. The Constitution, if the outcomes of a law are unjust, then change the interpretation and its application.
Mm.
Change the law. If the outcomes are unjust, if they cause injustice, if they harm your citizens, then change the law, or change it the way you interpret and apply it.
Okay, so let's talk about interpretation and applying it. You think it's possible for, with one to garner a lot of public support? And at the end of the day, like Abraham said, that it's arbitrary, right, to get this citizenship, because there's one mother who gave, for Malaysian mother married to a foreign spouse, gave birth overseas. She got her citizenship for her child within 2 weeks of application while overseas. 2 weeks. And she said, "Oh, how come you guys are getting it so long?" So when she shared that experience, I was like, then it actually depends. Is it possible? It really depends on the agency itself or the people who are handling the case to fasten the process of giving the citizenship. And what I don't understand, why it takes 6 years, more than 6 years, just to process the whole thing. 3 to 6 years.
I
Is
think
it
the
possible?
easiest, yeah, I think the easiest response to that is, like Abram said earlier, is discretionary. It's
Yeah,
discretionary. They
discretionary.
can really take as long as they want. The process isn't clear. Like, that's essentially what's happening right now. I think it's an abusive process, because it's unclear. People are not. There's no reasonable expectation for a successful application, and so at the end of the day, it's a flawed process. And fixing that in and of itself will not solve the problem, because you know the
Yeah,
solution is easy for me. It's just like,
yeah.
change the way you understand the law. Let it apply equally to women.
All right. So I just want to share with you an experience I have with my friend who lives in Singapore. Yeah. So, but she's a single mother. So at that time, I was thinking, oh my God, if she's a single mother, the father is not really there. So I said, better come back to Malaysia and give birth in Malaysia. And she's, that means she had a child out of wedlock, right? So, but as she gave birth in Malaysia, and then of course, when normally if you're Muslim, they will ask you, you must have the Binti Abdullah. So we went to the Jabatan, the registration, and they say, oh, you have to have the Binti in Abdullah. And she does not want to have the Binti Abdullah because if she travels together, it's not the same name. You have the Binti, and then, they'll be stigmatized. And I don't think it's fair for the child to be stigmatized as being, out of wedlock child. So what we did was we went to several, I actually helped her, and we went around to few of the branches, and they said, no, it says that you have to do it, until one officer told me, why don't you try to go to Putrajaya? So we actually went to Putrajaya office, and then my friend applied the application. She actually put the name, no Benki, no nothing. The last name is the same name as her own surname. Her child have the own surname. And putting the application, the officer just look at it and then stop and then pop up, done. So can you imagine? People think in Malaysia, if a child out of wedlock must have Binti Abdullah, because that is the information is being given to all the branches. But yet, actually, if we can do it, it's really interpretation of it and how the officers really want to help or not. And I think in our case, if only really discretionary. If okay, fine, you want to follow that kind of interpretation, okay, just do it within 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, whatever, but not 6 years. That could be a solution for it if they still want to maintain the way they want to interpret it, not automatic citizenship. What do you think of that?
No, I still feel that I should fill in the same form as my brother does. That should be
Mm,
what we are fighting for and what we deserve, right?
right. Yeah.
Times
Okay.
have changed.
Thank you.
We're not in the 50s anymore, where you when you want to go overseas also you have to travel by ship and then you don't know when you're going to come back to Malaysia. Now you can just,
Yeah.
you can cross borders so easily. Our world is so different now, right?
Yeah.
So it's a very
Yeah.
simple ask, and I think it's a very
Mm,
fair ask. And
mm,
the implications, it's a big win, right, for Keluarga Malaysia, for the Malaysian
definitely.
family. And it's a
Yeah.
big win, don't forget, for the children. We must
Definitely.
always think about the best interest of the child, especially
Yeah.
when they're so small.
Yeah.
Why do you want to confuse the little kids, right?
Mm,
They have no sense of the injustice that they're going against now, and it's the mothers fighting for it, right?
right.
It's
Mm.
really, we have the world on our shoulders. So give us the justice that we deserve.
Yeah, we do deserve the justice. I think our kids, being us a Malaysian, deserve to be a Malaysian. We don't need to go through this kind of hardship just to fight for equal right to what the man has, you know. And then come on, we are the one carrying the child, for heaven's sake. Kan? Bukannya the fathers tak apa, senang-senang nak kahwin 4 ke pun tak apa, overseas pun boleh kahwin. Still dapat automatic citizenship. Anyway, I think we have got so much information. Maybe you can share with us what was your hope and what is your thing the future like? What kind of support would you like to get from the Malaysians? Can you want to start with Adlyn?
Certainly. So my ask is that we keep on talking about this, keep on raising awareness, right? And even if this does not impact you today, you may know someone who's impacted by it. Or one day your daughter or your niece might be impacted by it. And there's no more time to lose already, right? So, talk to anyone and everyone about it. Bring this far and wide and support our petition, because we will be serving the petition to the government. So please sign up and share far and wide.
Thank you. How about Abraham? Any last words? What are your hopes? What do you think? Your strategies to cut down wacha.
Well, okay, so of course, we hope that the government will eventually withdraw the appeal. That's everyone's hope, and exactly what the petition is about. But if the government persists in the appeal, of course, we will follow. We will follow through. The legal team will follow through with it. We will persist and to maintain as to why the High Court decision is correct, is just, and the fact that now, even if there's an appeal, right? Even if there's an appeal, the interpretation of the Constitution as declared by the High Court stays, and it binds everybody, including the government, right? They have applied for a stay of execution, of course, to execute part of the judgment. With regard to the issuance of the My Cards to all children in like circumstances, they've applied for it. There's going to be a hearing for it. But the interpretation of the court that fathers include mothers, right, remains intact until the appeal is heard and being disposed of. So there's no question as to now, right, from the 9th of September until the appeal is heard and disposed of. Uh, and at this period of time, Malaysian mothers are equal in terms of standing in the conform of citizenship through that of fathers. So, of course, I hope that this decision will be maintained, whether by way of a withdrawal and appeal or an affirmation by the Court of Appeal and possibly the apex federal court. So, yeah, that's my hope.
Thank you, Abraham. Does that mean tomorrow I can go and serbu and demand for the right for my right now?
Well, that is a very tricky question, which I will not go into it. But because there is an application for stay of execution, so they are basically applying that this order be stayed. So of course, if you go there, I think the more likely outcome would be they will tell you that this thing is still pending there, and as we have discussed, they are basically the agents that are delivering or carrying out the instructions of the government. So they will say, for now, we have not received any instructions, and therefore, just wait for this whole limbo to be over and all that. So of course, if we follow the law and what is being declared by the courts, there's no two ways about it. Malaysian mothers are equal to Malaysian fathers. And basically, of course, a lot of it has been said that Malaysia has made a commitment to the CEDAW, and women are asking for their rights. But what I would like to highlight here is what was pointed out by the High Court judge. I'll just read that one line. On the point of legitimate expectation, there was an argument that we raised in court that Malaysia has ratified international treaties and conventions intending to give equal rights without consideration of gender. The legitimate expectation is not to be derived from any international treaty or convention. As far as these mothers are concerned, they are not saying, that, we want equal treatment for ourselves, right? But the learned High Court judge actually says this: the legitimate expectation of the mother is derived from the natural instinct to give the best to the child. It is natural for the parent that everything of value be inherited by their children, be it material or otherwise. So it's actually a motherly instinct that I'm going to give the best for my children, right? Including citizenship, including everything that I can afford to give. That is an instinct. It's not so much, it is, a collateral to that, equal treatment and all that. But at the end of the day, it's just that we want to give the best to our children as far and as much as we can. So I hope that the government respects this. Of course, if they perceive the appeal, we will soldier on. And we hope that the outcome would be finally resolved in our favor and favor of all the mothers who are affected by this issue.
I can't hear you. Maybe it's just me.
Yeah, I think I can't hear you. So, Liz, I think
You're
you're muted, Liz.
Okay. So yeah, the last one is Suri. Wrap it up for us and just share us what is your hope, what's your last words to the audience.
Oh my God, my hope is, I want to just jump on Adlyn's bandwagon and really say, one, keep talking about this issue. It is an extremely popular decision. I think that the fact that we were able to rally like 12,000 signatures in less than 24 hours, 12,000, sorry, 1,200. 12,000, 12,000 signatures in less than 24 hours was a big testament to that. It's at 21. And I think, our leaders, our political leaders see numbers. They react to numbers. They respond to numbers. So one, keep it in the public limelight. Two, talk about the issue. But my real hope is that this decision is translated into practice, is recognized and translated into practice. I want to see Malaysian women on an equal basis as men, Malaysian men. Like, you can't say we revere or we hold women up high and yet in the same breath, not grant us equal citizen, the right to confer citizenship on an equal basis as men. I believe that we are of equal value. I think we are resilient. I think Malaysian women are resilient and strong, and because we've had to go through all this hardship simply to ensure that our children are safe and doing well. You know what I mean? So my hope is to see the government recognize this as well, is to see it applied, is to push so hard that the government can no longer ignore that this is the reality of the day, that this is the norm of the day, and that we are given our due. You know, as Malaysian women, as equal participants in a democratic country, I want Malaysian women to be given their due and enjoy their equal rights as equal participants in this democratic project, you know, that we call a country. So
Yeah.
that is my big hope.
Thank you so much, Suri. I think all of you have done such amazing job, tirelessly. I know it must be, after you won the High Court and then continually you got appeal, and I think you guys didn't have enough much sleep. And thank you for fighting for this, for our children, not just for your children, for ours, the whole other women Malaysian. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. On behalf of other mothers, terima kasih. On behalf of other mothers, yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate this. That's why I'm so happy to have you guys to come in today. I just approached you guys 1 week ago, and I was like, oh, I got you guys to be. I want to, because I think everyone wants to hear your voice, to hear your opinion, your experience. And this will be replayed, I hopefully, by a lot of people to hear your point of view as well. And we can keep having these conversations, and hopefully we get all your hope there. Yeah, make equal rights for all women. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for watching, and hope to see you guys again next Friday. And thank you, Suri. Thank you, Abraham and Adlyn. Have a good night, everyone. Bye bye.